And what's happening at the moment with the migrant crossings and France not exactly being the best, most trustworthy partner and keeping their end of the bargain. What a surprise.
Well, isn't it funny that Priti Patel only this morning on the front page of the Times is blaming the EU for mass migration in the Channel? Apparently, she's discovered that the real problem is the EU's Schengen borders situation. Now, Priti Patel's been Home Secretary for quite a long time. Why is it taking her this long to work that out?
No, this sounds very desperate from Priti and a bit embarrassing and beneath her, to be honest, because no one's buying it. One of the things about Brexit was that our Parliament could no longer blame the EU for diddly squat.
Right.
You know, our hands are tied behind our backs. Sorry, we can't do anything about immigration because we're in the EU. No longer applies. It's 100% their responsibility. It is not France's responsibility to ensure our border controls or to ensure that illegal immigrants don't get through. It really isn't their responsibility.
And also, presumably, if you are in France and you see a whole load of sort of, Calais-style camps like the jungle, you don't really want them there.
No.
So if the people want to disappear off to another country, you'd probably be quite happy to go. Yeah, I mean, if it was the other way round and we had a load of immigrants in Britain who wanted to get to France, I'm sure we'd be just helping them shove off, wouldn't we?
I think the Brits have a really strong sense of fair play that some of our friends on the continent don't necessarily share. And I think Macron at the moment is really sticking it to the Brits because he knows we're a tiny little island. I mean, England, I think, fits into France about 4 times. And they've got all these camps. Macron wants to get rid of them because he's playing to the nationalist lot over there for the election. And so what a way to stick it to us. Let them all come through. Yeah. Of course, the human trafficking, smuggling, criminals out there are having a whale of a time. They're laughing
They're
at
literally
Priti
making
Patel
hundreds of thousands of pounds a day, apparently.
And our government's complicit in it. They are responsible. It's like
them.
we're offering an Uber service. The Home Office makes millions from immigration, by the way. This is why governments will never reflect the electorate on immigration because economically it makes sense, but they don't care about the effect it has on communities, on social cohesion.
Right.
They never will. That's why Boris doesn't care. He has no political will for this whatsoever.
No, because he doesn't see the size of the communities that have been affected by the numbers of people who have come here. The sheer numbers. I'm not just talking about those coming on dinghies. I'm talking about legal immigration as well. But you can't expect Britain to just continually grow without the infrastructure suffering. The roads are busier now than they ever were. The trains are busy. Everything's busy. Schools are busy. People can't get doctors' appointments. They can't get dentists because there's no more room on the list. Because we've got about 6 or 7 or possibly 8 million more people here than we had about 10 years ago.
Well, I think 3 million extra during just Labour's recent rule came in, and the Tories promised to reduce it. They haven't. And you've got to ask yourself, what happens to MPs when they get into power, that they completely drop the immigration thing? We are not against immigration. I don't know anyone who is against immigration.
No.
We just want to reduce it to help our infrastructure.
Well, we asked for it to be controlled.
Yeah,
and that
it never
was
has
what was
been.
the part of the Tory manifesto in 2019 that everybody agreed with.
Yeah.
Of course you want it controlled. Like Boris Johnson said at the Tory party conference, we have a right to know who's coming here. We have a right to know what they're coming here to do. And we have a right to know what the history is, surely.
But you saw his latest comment, I think, it was the last week, about, we might as well give up because really, unless the French help us, we can't do anything about it.
Oh, really?
This defeatist attitude.
Give up.
Give up.
Brilliant.
I
thought you were supposed to be like Churchill.
Well, so did I.
don't remember Churchill saying, you know what? The Nazis, let's just give up.
Yeah, listen, it's going to happen anyway.
They keep
it's
blowing
inevitable.
up our airfields, they've invaded France. We might as well just give up and let them come here.
I think they've lost control over the civil service.
All right, Winston.
Yeah, exactly. In 2017, they reduced the border force by thousands and thousands. They're just not interested.
No.
I think they just see it as a money-making.
And
one
to be
day
honest,
they'll get into
I don't blame the border force, because if you're in the border force, you're probably going, well, they don't really have any stomach for this anyway. They don't really want us to arrest them. They don't want us to detain them. They don't want us to send them back. They've even asked for a judicial review, the border force union, to say we don't think we should be sending them back. You're kind of going, sorry, are you sure you're in the border force? It's called border force.
Well,
one of those 2 words should at least apply.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, though, that over in Poland, where there's another migrant crisis on the border with Belarus, the EU is saying those are not proper migrants, so we're not letting them in.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's very double standards.
Yes.
And also they see it as, Brexit is going to mess up the UK because there's going to be civil unrest with all this illegal immigration. Ha, ha, ha,
Oh,
ha.
really?
But the Poles,
What a surprise.
I mean, the Poles and Brits should really work together. I've always envisaged them a little bit out of the EU and joining up with us.
Well, Poland actually is probably the closest to doing that, isn't it? Because they've already had a ruling, I think, made in a Polish Superior Court in which they've said that Polish law over supersedes EU EU law.
Yeah.
So the EU are kind of flapping about going, what's this? What does this mean? You know,
But
does it
you
mean
know-
that they can leave? They don't have to do what we tell them. They don't want to take any migrants, so they're refusing the money as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all very interesting.
They're our inspiration, but you know the UK are helping the Polish at the moment defend their borders,
Yes.
but they're not doing anything to our borders at all. So, and if Boris says
Beggars
he's not in
belief,
control,
isn't it?
who is in control
I know.
of our borders? It's quite scary because it looks like no one is.
But
I'm
is
afraid.
there a solution, though? Because nobody really seems to have one. I mean, we hear these ridiculous stories about, let's send them all to Rwanda, and you've got to go, yeah, because that sounds like it would work well. Albania, what are you just picking names out of a hat now?
Yeah, I think the further away, the better.
We actually had a guy come up with a great idea who was a caller a few weeks back, and he said, why don't you just put one of these cruise ships in the middle of the channel, and you can put them on that because they're secure, they're safe. You can put people into cabins and you can lock them if you need to. And while their applications are being processed, that's where they stay. So they don't actually sit in this country. And if they are refused asylum, then you just sail them back to wherever it
Yeah,
was.
you know what's going to happen, Mike? The BBC will get a journalist in there taking photos and filming about the terrible conditions and how awful it is, and that this is against their human rights, and it will close down. That's why we kind of need the offshore processing centre far, far away.
Yeah, but where though?
Timbuktu.
But where can you have it?
Because what we're doing now is we're letting down genuine refugees. We're a generous, charitable country. They don't get a look in. They have to stay in the camps because they don't have the mobile phones, the thousands of pounds that these young men have that are escaping France. I mean, it's
They're
ridiculous.
all pretty well dressed for people fleeing for their lives.
Very well dressed.
You know?
And it's really
They obviously
abusing...
stopped off at the Nike outlet
Yes.
on the way while fleeing for their lives.
Yeah, and they're all of similar age, and they're abusing the goodwill of the British people, which is actually causing resentment towards genuine refugees. So it's fueling division and suspicion, and it's all coming from the top. And I'm sorry, but the Conservative Party are to blame.